Alright, so let's do a quick summary on what we have just learned. We know that we want to check for null within our applications. That's beneficial to our applications because we don't allow them to crash. That's very good. We allow the user to have a very good experience within our apps. Now, there is a very important question that we have just treated with an example in our project, and that is, when should you check for null values? Because it's important for you to not do this excessively wherever you can in the app. It's not important and it's not a good practice for you to do that. You must check wherever you feel the need and wherever it's important for you to do null checks. So for example, when you have null values that come from external sources like APIs, like servers, so that are out of your control, you should do null checks. You should verify if those values are as expected. That's a good practice and you should do that. Now also, if there are values that come from different Android APIs or different results like scanning a QR code or having a callback from Android, and those values you should check for null because you do not know, they are out of your control, you do not know what they are going to return. So those values might be null, and even though your application relies on them, you should make sure that those are not null so they don't crash your app. So the whole takeaway from this is you should check for null wherever the null values are out of your control. Now, the very important question is when you should not check for null, because it's important for you to understand where you shouldn't do this kind of check and why. Now, this kind of decision of allowing your application to crash, so implying that a variable should be non-null at runtime, allows your application or your flow to be in a fail-fast strategy. So if you decide that a certain variable should not be null at some point in your code and you mark it with 2 exclamation marks in Kotlin, or in Java you just simply don't check if it's not null, then you are having a fail-fast strategy in place. And that is very good because you can identify bugs much earlier in your code, maybe even in testing, and you don't identify them in production. And that's very important. Now, this kind of not doing null checks, this kind of strategy of not doing this kind of checks and kind of implying that a variable should explicitly not be null, are done for variables that are dependent on your flow. So if you have a variable that you know for sure that at some point within your app it should not be null because you have given it a value previously, or it just, you know that it should have a value and it should not be null, then you should not check for it and you should explicitly make sure that you use it as a non-nullable value. This is very important because by doing so you make sure that your flow of logic is correct and that the app is working as expected and there is no edge case that you have missed. Now, if there is an edge case that you have missed, the app will crash and you will fail fast and you will identify very fast where the problem is, and this will allow you to be very agile within your code, within your strategy of understanding and implementing features. Alright, this is it for now, and one very important mention is that these are just examples of cases where you should or where you should not check for null, and you must also take this with a grain of salt and decide for yourself for different other cases. But these are very good examples that you should be taking into consideration.